Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve. Hello, and welcome back. This is episode 53 of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, and we have had a little bit of a hiatus, not by design, because I got flu. It literally just knocked me out for about 12, 11 or 12 working days. So apologies for the gap here, but we are back. I'm feeling much better. Alex is here with me again, and we're going to talk today about benefits of financial coaching because there's a lot of information out there. Some of it's easy to understand. Hopefully, this is one of those sources. Some of it's a bit more difficult. And then you seem to go from being able to read books, listen to podcasts, perhaps watch some other kind of financial media. And then there's this huge gap all the way up to like paid for regulated advice from a financial advisor. So financial coaching, I think, aims to fill the gap between that. And I know Alex used to do some financial coaching in his past life. So I thought I would just ask him to explain a little bit around that, how it works, how it could benefit people. And we'll just have some back and forth around that. So Alex, if you're happy, welcome back. Sorry I've been unwell. And over to you.
Yeah, hi everybody. Yeah, welcome back. And Alex, I'm very glad that you are better. I mean, some of those you sounded dreadful last week, and I'm glad that you are now back and fighting fit. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic, this one, because I think as I guess certainly with the kind of expansion of social media and different platforms, there's a load of content about like finance content out there now. And probably if you were to rewind 30 or 40 years, your kind of only route to get financial education, if you weren't reading books, was a financial advisor. And you probably may have come into contact with them with like your parents might have been either remortgaging or your parents might be getting close to retirement, and so they get some kind of formal advice from a financial advisor, and it's all very shirts and ties and very stuffy. And I think that's to an extent still the same. Um, and I think, as you said, you've got this load of content made online. Anybody can give essentially financial advice or financial uh, content, produce financial content. And there's a bit of a gap in the middle where financial education comes in, and financial coaches are really good at bridging that gap. I think it's important just to clarify at the beginning of so financial advice and almost the traditional financial advice that is tailored advice for you specifically as an individual, or to it would be like to a couple or to a family, and that is specific to you. It's, as you said, regulated in that the and the financial advisors will be insured, and if they do not provide financial advice, you can go after them and sue them for not doing that properly. um, but that is tailored to you. It's expensive, and sometimes they can charge an hourly fee, and sometimes it's a percentage of your assets. But they will be able to provide, tax efficient planning if you want trust set up, um, kind of setting up investment accounts for you. They will propose or recommend specific investments, and so that is the tailored plan for you, fully regulated by a qualified individual. Like um, the qualifications are quite rigid and to get into becoming a financial advisor, so you know that you're dealing with somebody with quality. So that's financial advice, the traditional advice. It's super specific to you. And then yeah, you've then got this whole raft of social media, like finfluencers as they're called. So some of them are themselves financial advisors, some are accountants or bankers or work in the investment industry, so have got some knowledge and come with some kind of gravitas to be able to speak about finance. But you actually get quite a lot of kind of finfluencers who don't really know what they're talking about and can get quite a big following, and it can be quite dangerous, especially if you follow some of their advice to the letter. And none of that you see like on social media would be classified as proper financial advice. So it's just financial content, and you'll always see a disclaimer, just as we have a disclaimer on our podcast that this isn't financial advice. And so financial coaching then kind of sits in the middle, and really the benefits of because what would a coach do? So it would still work with you on an individual basis. So it still takes into account your circumstance. What they can't do is offer specific investment advice, but what they can do is help you understand money, your behavior towards money. They can help you come up with a budget. They can help figure out your net worth, or come up and help be the sounding board for maybe getting some objectives for what you want to achieve with your kind of your life financially, like short term, medium term, long term. Almost translating what would that mean for you on a say you want to buy a house and you need a deposit for, I don't know, £30,000 in 4 years' time, and you've got a certain level of income and expenses. A coach could work with you to help look at what that might look like in terms of how much money you need to be saving um, per month. So it's kind of understanding your position, and also helping to educate you on, it can certainly educate you on investments and types of products and providers that are available. But I guess where they would stop is saying you should allocate X amount of your money to this fund, X amount to that fund, X amount to that. But they kind of act as that educator in the middle, and I think is really valuable because I think I guess you don't have to be a qualified financial advisor to be a financial coach. I think if you're choosing somebody, it needs to be somebody that has got some credentials. So certainly within finance, whether that's being an accountant or being a chartered analyst or working in the tax industry or the investment industry or insurance, something to give them so that prove that they've got some credentials and that you can be comfortable and confident taking having deep conversations with them. I'm sorry, I've just waffled for about 5 minutes on that, Alex, but I don't know if you've any questions on that at the minute.
No, it's very good. I was just been scribbling some stuff down. So I think the important thing to note is finances are all personal. Like what I do with my own money for my family is different to what Alex does with his, and it'll be different to what you do with yours. So if we were to come on here and say, do this with your money, put it in this very specific fund because that's what we do, that wouldn't be correct because we're not you. We have very little knowledge of anything to do with your life or your financial circumstances, the goals you want to achieve or where you want to get to. So that's really the difference between like a regulated advisor and someone who perhaps produces financial content, hence all the disclaimers. So I think as the kind of getting regulated advice, it's not all a money thing. A lot of it's like a learning about you, where you are, where you want to get to, and then perhaps suggesting very specific things that only would work for you. So just because it works for you as a person doesn't mean it will work for your neighbor or your sibling or your mum or your dad or whatever. And that's really the crux of it. Like the regulated advice is one to one, whereas a lot of the financial media that goes on that you see around kind of YouTube, etc., is and books as well. They're like one to many. You can use those ideas and adapt them into your own plan, but they're not like specific advice. You shouldn't just follow what someone on YouTube says because it looks like this worked for them.
Yeah, I think that's completely valid. Everyone is different, and I think this is where coaches can help. I guess it's a little bit like if you imagine a personal trainer in a gym, they will have a conversation with you to understand what you want to get out of your training, and they will then kind of guide you with his some ideas around meal plans and here's the kind of exercises that you can do, and almost be there to nudge you along in the right place. And I think I also see financial coaching operates a little bit like that, and because I think also you're there to enlighten people and to educate, and I think that's half of that, and help develop habits, because that's the hard bit with finance and personal finances. What often people focus on is like, oh, the specific, or like the tax efficiency or the specific funds that you're doing, whereas actually that's not the hard bit. Is the 80% of setting up behaviors and knowing knowing about your income and expenses and understanding what net worth is and what liabilities and assets are. And once you kind of understand that for yourself and then have a goal to work towards, you're then so far ahead. And all you then have to do, it then becomes quite boring in a way in that you just have to rinse and repeat and keep saving and maximize your savings rate and put money in the right places.
Yeah, we've said like the boring middle is your life, isn't it? It shouldn't be boring. Get on and live it. But learning, like going from being financially illiterate, and by that I mean not knowing anything about finances, head in the sand, etc., and it just being a total unknown, to learning about kind of finances and being able to manage your money better. Once you've done that learning, you've gone from 0 to 1. The rest of it you can kind of put on autopilot, as we've suggested if you'd listened to all the other episodes before this. And then at that point, you probably have a good handle on your money. You know where you want to be. And then if you do need some regulated advice, you can get that, and it will be specific to you. You're not going to find your specific plan dreamt up by somebody who makes TikTok like reels or something, or YouTube videos, because they have no idea who you are. They don't even know you exist. And so they don't know how to tailor that to you. They can give you broad ideas and concepts similar to what we do or we try and do, but they're never going to form a perfect financial plan for you. And there's so much like not differences, but like the tax book, say in the UK, is an absolutely humongous book. I've no idea how many pages it is, but it would be a weighty doorstop. And navigating something like that for someone who's not a tax advisor, really, really difficult. So maybe you need a little bit of advice around a specific tax thing, then fine. But you're not going to get that particularly from a coach. They might refer you to somebody, but coaches for me are for getting the first building blocks down of your financial house, and then you then build the rest of it up. And when you get to tricky bits, for example, I don't know, in this analogy, windows, roofs, etc., you might need some extra help from a financial advisor at that point. But a lot of it's laying foundations in good practice, building habits, as you've said, and then really the rest of it is taking care of itself. I mean, I did that portion of learning when I was 29, 30, and really I haven't changed what I've been doing for the last 5 years in any massive way at all. I've just been on autopilot, rinse and repeat, get on and live your life.
Yeah, and I think exactly. And I think that's the whole idea of, I think once you understand finance, you realize you almost set up all your little systems and where your money's going to be going, and then it is just about putting money into the hopper, and then it sorts itself out. But I think just coming back to the point just around on financial advisors, I think what we often see with financial advisors is they'll kind of go through their working life, they'll have numerous accounts, pensions, investments dotted everywhere, like quite bad housekeeping. And then they will go, right, I'm coming up towards retirement, I'm 55, I'm now getting a financial advisor to sort my retirement out for me. And so much of the work that is then spent with the advisor is on essentially doing the housekeeping. So it's getting, lists of accounts, lists of your pensions and investments and outstanding loans and all these things, and then understanding what your lifestyle costs you. And they often, people will just go lump all this into the financial advisor. They then spend the time essentially recalibrating and collecting it all together to then be like, oh, so here's now your financial position. This is what you're like. And that can take, well, days and days of time, which then costs a lot of money.
Yeah, like I imagine, like I've heard stories of people taking like huge folders of financial documents and stuff into an advisor. They would charge you an absolute fortune to sort it out.
Oh, yeah.
Condense it, simplify it into like a single page, and they're like, here you are.
Yeah.
That'll be £4,000, please. And actually, they've put the work in, they know their stuff, right? So that makes sense. But you can do a lot of that yourself. Like, for example, we've said before that in the UK, the majority of people will do very well in life by utilizing the advantages of an ISA and a pension, and possibly a high interest savings account. Yeah. And the simplification here is in the current world, we're going to have many jobs over our life. We don't just get employed someplace, get a gold standard DB pension and then retire at 50 or 55, whatever. So even just having that little bit of knowledge of how to transfer a pension into a SIPP, that'll be huge. I mean, recently I did that. It took 4 months to do, but it took me probably 30 minutes total to do the entire thing, and the rest of it's waiting on the other companies. But it's that helps simplify things. I don't want to get to retirement and have 8 pensions, having small pots all over the place, and have to deal with that headache. I'd rather just slowly move them together, so I have 1, maybe 2 pots.
Yeah.
And then when it gets to that time, I haven't got this massive headache, and I won't be like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. I'll pay someone else to deal with it. So there's an awful lot to be said for simplicity in what is actually a simple thing to be able to do, but there's an awful lot of jargon around it, which possibly by design, but it just is what it is. It makes it seem harder than it is when it's really not. If you heed the lessons that we've obviously spoken about and other people speak about, you can manage, I would say, 95% of it yourself. And maybe you need to employ a financial advisor at the end into retirement, or if there's any massive life changes or anything like that, for a small hourly rate, like a small number of hours, just to deal with the nitty gritty bits that are really difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly how I'm approaching it. And I think advisors are there, like use them. It pains me, and my parents are some of these people where it pains me when you spend thousands of pounds on financial advice to essentially get told to put some investments in a tracker fund in an ISA, and it's just it's so annoying. And I think where the financial advisors can really use and where they should be used is really complex situations. You can educate yourself, and I think this is where coaches can be really valuable, is that bit in the middle where it's like sometimes you just need pointing to the right place. And I bet, like, akin to like the personal trainer example, they won't lift the weights for you, but they will tell you these are the weights or these are the exercises you need to do to work that bit of muscle, or you can improve your running form this way. You're the one that still has to do and run the miles or lift the weights, but you've got that nudge in between, you've got that person nudging you. And I think that's where like the coaches can be really important and valuable, is it's that bit. So they're not, and look, some people might just get to the end and like, right, I'll just pay whatever thousands of pounds it is, and an advisor will do it all for me. But I think you miss out on a lot in between, and risk the chance of overcomplicating your situation or not actually living to the standard that you might want to live to. And I think, as we always say with personal finance, the earlier you do things, the better. Education is so crucial. But yeah, and I think coaches can just provide that bit of help and education and guidance without then having to go essentially get told what you can learn yourself by somebody that's going to charge you £3,000-4,000 to set you up with them as a client, plus 1% of your assets thereon. When it's just shove it in an index fund in an ISA or a pension.
Yeah, if you're technically overpaying to do what those basic things that really anybody could learn to do, that's a very expensive lesson. It's a little bit like I don't know, to take like a health analogy, for example. It's like you getting a top surgeon somewhere to come and tell you how tall you are and how much you weigh. It's just not necessary. You don't need to pay that amount out when you could learn something like that. I mean, there are points where you and I didn't know anything about finances, and we've just kind of self-taught it over time and adapted and learned more things and read widely around it. And I think I think you're right. It can be a huge benefit to just simplifying things. We've talked before about the impact of money, worries, and stress, sleeping issues around all sorts of kind of physical and mental health. And having my own financial house in order is actually a really calming thing for me. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because it just has negative impacts. Like, it attributes negatively to my health and my well-being. So I'm much happier now, like, with my financial position than I used to be when I was kind of a bit naive around it. I was in ignorant, and I don't mean that as in a negative thing, ignorance. But I just didn't know what I didn't know until I started reading about
Yeah.
it. So I do think there is a place for most people to benefit from financial coaching and at certain points advice, but it's figuring out like who you need to go to. Like if you have a really complicated thing and you're, for example, you're earning 25k in the UK and someone offers you to move to Dubai and you earn £1 million and you need to figure all of that taxes and stuff out, then probably a coach is not the one for that. It's going to be an actual advisor. But if you want just some reassurance or some guidance that you're actually doing broadly correct things, and you want someone to keep you accountable for that, then that could be a financial coach for sure. Or you could learn it yourself, and perhaps get reassurance or a sounding board from a friend of yours who's also monetary minded. It's working that out. So I just dread thinking about someone paying humongous fees for someone to click some buttons to open a pension, open a SIP or an ISA for someone.
Yeah, precisely. And I think that's where, I get riled, is when you see
Think
stuff
of all
like
the
that.
missed growth.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
And
criminal almost.
yeah, but no, it's definitely, and there's somebody, and if you are in, say, on the opposite side and have got some debts and you want just some help and you feel a bit like you're drowning, the financial coaching can be quite reasonably priced. I think a good investment to help, and they can certainly help get your house in order, or certainly confront some of the debts and look at your income expenses to get to that point where it can, even just at that point, knowing where your financial position is and where things are coming in and where they're going out, that in itself is a huge step. And having somebody next to you to kind of hold your hand whilst you do it is really valuable. And that's where coaches can be brilliant, is that kind of give you that sense of encouragement and bit of accountability to kind of go and open up those letters that you ignore when they land on the doorstep. So that's another kind of, if you're in the other way of maybe negative net worth, or if you've got debts, they can be helpful in that, just giving you that level of support that you need to look and work through that.
And just also some other thoughts around how you would tackle it, because sometimes you can't see the situation you're in because it's you and you're in it, and you might be in it so deep that you can't kind of see the wood for the trees. I mean, certainly if you're in debt, it can be problematic. I mean, we've done an episode number 7 all around that. So if that's you and that's what you're thinking, perhaps listen to that first before taking any other action. But I wondered, is just someone to kind of take a little bit of that load off of you and to make it not seem easier, but make it seem doable.
Yeah.
And to put that seed of belief in your mind that actually it can be done. And that there's no downside to, if you're thinking about financial coaching, just to contact a few of them. A lot of them will do an introductory kind of 10, 20-minute phone call, perhaps, just to see if you're the right person and they can help you. It's there's no downside to that. And if it works, it helps you simplify a particularly difficult thing in your life, which money can be. If you get it wrong, it can be very difficult. If you get it right, it can be brilliant. I also just want to say one other thing before we kind of move to the next thing here. But it's if you understand how money works, it's actually a lot simpler than it seems. A lot of people like complexity just to prove like certain things in their own mind. Like, I need a complex solution because I do this and I make this much and la da da da. Actually, you probably don't. 95% of people don't need complicated financial instruments. There are very few people who do, and they will be for very specific reasons. It's likely you won't need the majority of that. And you run the risk there of overcomplicating and making it so difficult, like tying yourself in knots, that at some point you might just be like, throw your hands in the air and be like, I'll just pay someone to fix it to get me out of this mess. When actually it can be a mess of your own making if it is too complicated.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think often it's like that, sometimes like the best route and the best way forward is the simplest, like more often than not. And I think there is that element of somebody, oh, this is my financial situation, and oh, I should be taking advantage of all these kind of tax loopholes and all this stuff. And it's like, unless you have got millions of pounds, that isn't going to be you. And it's more than likely, and it's, as you said before, it's like a pension or a SIP, an ISA, high interest savings account for your emergency fund, and knowing where your money's going in and out and having some objectives kind of just covers it for 99% of the people. And I think people get so bogged down in knowing, oh, do I need a 4.3% allocation of my assets towards this cryptocurrency or that? And it's like just too
You're just
complex.
getting bogged in the weeds, aren't
Exactly.
you? And it actually over a long time frame won't make any
Yeah,
difference. You're gonna spend hours and hours thinking about it, running scenarios for it to make a tiny difference at
exactly.
the other end of life.
Yeah,
Um, and actually, it's not. It's a little bit about inertia of people waiting to pick the right or the best investments. I mean, the best investment is to start 50 years ago or
yeah,
longer. Like we said the other episode, you start in 1870 or whatever, and you'll make extra
yeah,
loads of money up till now. But obviously, we can't do that. But don't let inertia in that and questions around it keep you from investing. Like do some research and test your theory. Put £10, £50, £100 into an index fund and just see what happens.
yeah,
Yeah, it's time in the market is better than timing the market, and broadly, I would say as well that simple is best.
yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to mention, kind of financial coaching at all?
No, I say just mention that I see more and more of the like high street banks offering this as well. So if you are
Yeah,
with
yeah.
your current account provider, yeah, go and have a chat with them. I think they do it for free. And I mean, caveated that they'll probably be trying to sell you on some of their products, but um, to kind of bear that in mind. But it's a good option to go for.
Yeah, definitely. Just go in with an open mind and just see what they have to say, and be mindful that they probably only have access to their own financial instruments, and just see what benefit it can be. You're under no obligation to do any of the things that they suggest. They're just kind of food for thought and ideas. Yeah, that's a really good point. I do see a little bit kind of advertised around that on billboards and stuff about
Yeah.
people learning money. And there's a recent advert I've seen about um, the old money trope of you learn all your money lessons by the time you're 7,
Yes.
and then the lady jumps in the
Yeah.
puddle on the way out, right?
That is a good advert. I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think it's such a necessary thing for people to learn about it. And it's been overcomplicated, and there's a huge gap in the market for just money simplicity.
Yeah.
Because it matters, and it will impact your life whether you know about it or not. And we'd always suggest the more you know, the better informed you'll be, and hopefully then the better choices and the better lifestyle you'll have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Should we play a quick game of reasonable or ridiculous, or do you want to do a summary before that?
No, I think yeah, maybe I can do a quick summary, and then I've got the um, ridiculous or reasonable for after.
Fine.
But
Cool. Do you want to do the summary or me?
yeah, I'm happy to do the summary.
That makes sense. Yeah, you
Yeah,
know much more about this than me. So okay, fine.
yeah. So I think in terms of, I think could you benefit from a financial coach? I think the answer is yes. And where it fits is in between, I would say, kind of self-education and some of the finfluencers and regulated financial advice. I think you go to the financial advisors for incredibly specific, complex solutions. I think financial coaching, it's all about educating you, helping you give you a bit of money confidence, helps you kind of direct you and point you in the right direction of whether that be debt reduction, investments, or savings, and even just understanding your own position from a net worth standpoint and income and expenses. So really valuable. A lot of it now is, the banks are offering it for free. There's plenty of other providers. It's certainly cheaper than normal financial advice. You won't be given complex or specific investment advice or tax advice, but you will get a good education. So I think it provides a really good bridge between self-educating um, and kind of social media and kind of proper regulated financial advice. So I think in summary, definitely worth looking into. and I think most people could benefit from it.
You did. That was really succinct. Did you write that down or no?
No, just came out of my
That's incredible. Like the ability to like summarize that in a very short space of time is amazing. Yeah, I suppose you have done financial coaching for a long time as well, and it's your wheelhouse. But that was very good. Well done.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Um,
I was going to say I have the reasonable or ridiculous now, and
Perfect. I'm
yeah,
ready.
expensive running shoes is my. Do you think it's reasonable or ridiculous? The thing is, so I'm starting to run. I used to run quite a lot. I've now running a lot more now as well. Currently, I've since bought in my past had used to have quite an expensive pair of running shoes, and I found them very good. I've now been using kind of middle of the road running shoes, which are fine, but I'm wondering whether to invest in a more expensive pair of running shoes. These would be more around like the £120 kind of mark. My current running shoes are about 45, £50, and my main reasons are better support around my ankles. I do have a particular running style where I underpronate and my feet kind of um, go up at the edges, and these shoes will help push my feet so they're a bit flatter. So hopefully we'll have fewer blisters. Um, and yeah, those are the main reasons. It's like support and stuff. So that's my. Is it reasonable or ridiculous? Are they just a gimmick, expensive running shoes, or should I stick with my?
Hmm. I I feel like I'm not a runner, as you can probably tell. I don't do that. But if they improve comfort, if they improve the when you kind of the pressure point through the kind of the heel or the ball of the foot or whatever, if it can reduce or lessen any damage or shock through the knee and then hip, I would say it's worth it. I wouldn't want to save like say 60, 70 pounds on a running shoe and have a painful left hip
Yeah,
for a week after running. I would say that's not worth it at all. So, and it also depends how many miles you get out of each pair. If you get, say, 50 miles out of a £50 pair, um, and 200 miles out of a £120 pair, then it makes more sense to get the more expensive one. But for me, I would go with the one that feels best and allows you freedom of movement and less
perfect.
pain.
That's very good. I will be buying them from an
Yeah.
outlet if I buy them, so they will be cheaper than the market price. But no, I think it's
Yeah.
no, that's good. I didn't actually think about the number of miles you get out of them.
Yeah. Will you track how many miles you get out of each shoe and
I
just see?
will.
I would hope.
I'll report back when I'm 47
Yeah.
and have finally throw them
Yeah,
away.
that's it. And you've done 4,000 miles on them
Yeah, yeah,
across wherever you've been running.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, I would think about something other. A health thing would be more
yeah.
more important to me than longevity of the shoe. If you can have a running shoe that doesn't cause you any pain or niggles whatsoever, that's worth a lot more to me than a much cheaper shoe that does cause you like additional joint or ligament issues. Like you hear people like stamping their feet down and it causes them knee troubles. No amount of money saved is going to save you if you don't have enough like cushioning between your knee bone and your chin,
Yeah.
femur and patella, right? Because that cause all sorts of problems. So, yeah, I would go. I would try. Probably, I would try both and see which you prefer. And if it's the better one, is the expensive one, then go for it.
Perfect. Well, thank you. That's been very useful counsel. So I would say it's reasonable
No
for
worries.
now.
So that would make me a running coach, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, my friend, for your expertise. I'll see you next week for episode 54. Um,
Yeah.
and I've recently been reading some extra studies around money, and one of them I found particularly interesting. So I'll add that as a like an introductory thing next week. But it's to do with the game of Monopoly as well, which is obviously money related.
Oh, well, I look forward to that. And yeah, thank you, Alex, and thank you everybody for listening. And as ever, if there's any topics or anything you want to cover, then please shoot us an email.
None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.